Okay. All right, so we're going to go into a little bit of detail today on the counteroffer process. Now, when you make an offer on a property, you want to try to make the best offer you can because you don't want to have the seller have to counter. You give them 1 point that they might counter, and if they do, they're going to counter more than 1 point in your contract. So you want to do as clean of a contract the first time as possible. You can do that by calling a listing agent and saying, I have a buyer who's interested in the property. My buyer would like to make an offer. What would your seller's perfect offer look like? Did you guys get that? My screen just froze. Sorry. I'm on a hotspot. So you're going to ask the listing agent what the seller's perfect offer would look like. You want to get your buyer on board with making as perfect an offer as possible. Because again, if you give them just 1 point to counter, they'll counter a bunch of them just to see if they can get you to make concessions. So if that happens, the counteroffer form is the form that's in front of you. It is a counter to the original unaccepted offer. So this becomes a part of the purchase and sale agreement. This is now the new cover page for the purchase and sale agreement. The purchase and sale agreement doesn't just go away. Now, granted, it won't be signed by all parties. This will be executed by all parties, but this replaces the information that's on page 1 and some of the other information that's in there in some cases. So you put a date and time on your counteroffer. And this counteroffer is to modify the purchase and sale agreement. You're going to put a date for your purchase and sale agreement. Now, whatever date was on the purchase and sale agreement goes in this spot here, including all exhibits. So the exhibits are brought across. It's just editing the actual purchase and sale agreement itself. And then you put in the property address, the address, the city. They're all in Georgia. We can't sell anywhere else unless you've got a reciprocal license in another state, and the zip code. Previous counteroffers rejected. Any and all previous counteroffers made by either party are hereby rejected and shall not be considered a part of any agreement. So if there's multiple counteroffers, it's the last counteroffer made and the purchase and sale agreement, plus, as this says, all exhibits attached, okay? Relationship between the original offer and this counteroffer. The original offer is hereby incorporated by reference to this counter. However, the terms of this counteroffer shall modify and control over any conflicting or inconsistent provisions contained in the original offer. Again, original offer is attached. Anything that this counteroffer says changes what's in that original offer. Effect of accepting this counteroffer. When this counteroffer is signed by the buyer and the seller, and a copy of the same is delivered to both parties, a legal binding agreement shall be formed. So, again, this is the document that's bound, not the original purchase and sale agreement. Since the original offers, including all exhibits, is incorporated by reference, only this counteroffer needs to be signed to create a legally binding agreement between the parties. Now, that doesn't mean that they're not going to sign the exhibits. Unless there's a change to the exhibits, they're still going to sign the exhibits. Clean copy. Holding on, get rid of that pop-up. Clean copy. Now this is a scary statement. I don't like this statement. Tom Fulkerson does not like this statement. At any time prior to closing, either party, if so requested, by the other shall sign a conformed or clean copy of this agreement. That means writing a brand new purchase and sale agreement, attaching the exhibits once again and incorporating what is in this document into the purchase and sale agreement. If you ever sign a conformed copy, it needs to have a stip in the document that says this is a conformed copy, just in case you make a typo and you type something wrong and change the parameters of the offer. So you don't ever really want to do clean copies. We used to do them as a matter of course. You really don't want to do clean copies. You want to keep this with the original purchase and sale agreement, but this statement allows you to do that. And terms and conditions. The following terms and conditions of the original offer are modified as followed. It says that the sections not filled in are not changed. Okay, so if a section is left blank, that means, that there is no change to that parameter in the contract. Now, I don't like leaving blanks in contracts. If we're not countering the purchase price of the property, we're only countering closing costs, I'm still going to put the purchase price in that was in the original offer to give the other party notice that we accept the amount that they offered for the property. So the things that are fill-ins, just like on the first page of the purchase and sale agreement, are the purchase price, closing costs, closing date, parameters of possession at closing, the holder of the earnest money, the closing attorney, how earnest money will be delivered and when, and due diligence. Those are the parameters that are most often changed in a counteroffer. So therefore, those are the parameters that are on this page. We don't change the address of the property. We don't change the legal description. Typically, the lead-based paint should be filled out, all of those things. So these are the commonly changed parameters. So that's why they're on here. Again, I suggest filling that all in, even if you're accepting a particular parameter that someone has offered. And then there's a time limit to the counteroffer. Just like on the original offer, there is a time limit to the counteroffer. Buyer and seller have to initial this first page, just like you do on the first page of the purchase and sale agreement, acknowledging that you accept the terms that are on the page. Now we go to page 2. You can see page 2 is all special steps and initials at the bottom. So page 2, page 2 are other modifications. Now, if you accept the stipulations that they put in the contract, you can put them back here on this page, but that is one thing you don't have to. Now, if you want to change their stipulations, you put that in here. You can say all stipulations, in the original offer are hereby removed from the contract. What that says is any stipulations that the buyer's agent put in the contract in sending me this offer, I am removing. My seller doesn't want any of those stipulations to control. Now, say that there's a parameter in the finance contingency for appraisal. Say they want 21 days for appraisal. My seller thinks that it's excessive. They want to shorten it to 14. So we will reference the, say, FA, it'd have to be conventional, because the conventional finance contingency is the only one that has a separate parameter for appraisal. So in the conventional finance contingency, the appraisal shall be limited to 14 days. So we have changed the finance contingency. That means that the other party doesn't execute it, because if they do, then they agree to the terms that are in there. So we can change parameters in exhibits that are attached to the contract. Let's say that the other agent didn't check a box in the legal description. The buyer's agent didn't check a box in the legal description. Happens all the time. So we're going to put in a stipulation that says the legal description is attached hereto as exhibit, and whatever the next exhibit in line is, say it's exhibit D. And we attach it to this counteroffer. So the legal description, I'd be a little more verbose, of the property is attached hereto as exhibit D. If they attached a personal property bill of sale, or they attached something that my seller didn't want, we would say, exhibit C, community, if I could type it would help, association disclosure is hereby removed from the contract. There is no association in this subdivision. So sometimes you'll have a seller's disclosure and some other things attached to the listing, and you don't have a community association disclosure because there is no HOA. So an agent in sending you an offer will send you a blank association disclosure to fill out and provide back to the buyer, or they'll request one in the stipulations. So if they attach one as an exhibit, you've got to remove that exhibit from the contract. So you would remove that exhibit with a statement similar to this. So there's lots of room to mess up and change the contract on this page. And again, you've got a whole page to do that with. Does anybody have any questions about what you can or can't do here, or how you would do it? Okay. So again, everyone has to initial this page. There's a lot of information that can go on this page, and instead of initialing each point itself, you just initial at the bottom to acknowledge the page. Then the last page is the signature page, just like on the purchase and sale agreement. It says it's attached as part of a counteroffer, and when that counteroffer is made, and that'll be filled in. But the rest of this page is exactly the same as the typical signature page, and allows it to be bound and attached to the purchase and sale agreement to override any of the parameters that are in that agreement. So is everybody good? Are we all on board?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to end that recording.